Okay, I'm here with Michael. We're in Montreal here in old Montreal, and Mike was just doing some work in this beautiful building. Mike's an interesting guy. He's part of my series of the most interesting man in the world. And I was just telling him my premise that AI is going to really, in my opinion, facilitate the importance of trades. Now, this is a guy who's lived in Abu Dhabi, lived in Florida, and now he lives in Montreal. He's made a successful career, and so I just wanted to ask him one question. Mike, what advice do you give to young men and young women who are thinking about the trades versus going to a 4-year school? Why do you think that's a great profession?
Well, one misconception is the trades do involve a certain amount of in-class training. So there is that aspect of it, but there's also the hands-on to get basically an apprenticeship, which is the practical side, and then there's the school side of it. However, there's also a lot of work without the formal training. But the fact of the matter is, there's a lot of successful work in the world. There's always going to be a lot of successful work for people in the world, and a lot of opportunities. The fact of the matter, we've just touched on the idea that the AI is going to take over a lot of jobs. That's true, but it's also going to create a lot of jobs, because as things become automated, automation is actual mechanical devices that need maintenance, need assembly. As you saw the buildings behind us, they are always going to be people's dwellings. People are always going to need infrastructure. People are always going to need tunnels built. There's always going to be bridges built.
And let me just interrupt you for a sec, because I want to just flesh out my first premise. And the reason I think AI is going to increase the demand for trades is because we need basic rare metals mining to create magnets, which are necessary for robotics. We need power plants to power the data centers. We need people to install wind turbines and photocells on people's roofs. And so that's why I think AI is going to facilitate that kind of trade. So just with respect to what you're saying, all of what I've mentioned requires the trades, right?
Oh, absolutely. The infrastructure for the refinement of the materials, the gathering of the materials, the exploration of the materials, those are all hands-on, very practical situations that require people, not machines, not thought processes. There's the engineering, there's the thought process set of any project, and then there's the actual application. The application is always going to be people with boots on the ground. And for myself, I've been doing this. I'm a 60-year-old man. I've been self-employed for 40 years. Never had to worry about work. Always had everything I've ever needed or wanted for myself and my family.
Yeah, and let me just stop you again.
Had a lot of freedom.
That's another theme on this channel, is wage freedom. So you've always owned your own business. You've been your own boss.
Correct.
And that's another advantage of the trades, I guess, right?
The timing's nice. When you decide you want to take some time off, you just do so if your schedule allows. Of course, you have to keep projects and customers, clients, their schedule are always a priority. However, you schedule around it. If I decide I want to take a couple of weeks off, we schedule for it. We wrap up projects and don't take another one on. We leave some air in our system. If I receive a phone call, when my son was in school, he's a young adult now, when my son was in school, Dad, I don't feel well. I was there. I didn't have to ask anybody. I didn't have to have any stress or worry about leaving the job site. I'd simply hopped in my car, gathered them up, and we went to the park, which is, a good park, or the beach will heal anything. So it allows you to be there more for your family and family events. And yes, there's a certain flexibility, and if you allow it, it can cause anxiety, because you do. You sometimes you say, okay, I'm booked up for the next 6 months. And sometimes you think, oh, well, I hope something else comes in. And invariably, luckily for me, things always have. Basically, the way that you can ensure this is being honest with people and doing quality work. And honesty is one of the best investments you can ever do in any business. And one of the nice things about this type of business, you deal hands-on with clients. I do a lot of high-end residential, and I meet interesting people. I have an interesting client base. And quite frankly, there's times when you just feel you're not going to be a good match for a client, and you don't pursue the job. So there's many types of freedoms that come with this type of work. And it's not the traditional, what we call the 9 to 5. So don't be afraid to take the plunge and get into this type of work if you're thinking about it.
That's awesome. So Mike, I know you're off to your next job. Your time is very valuable. One final question. So a guy's 18, his parents, the dad is sitting on the couch unemployed, drinking beer all day. He has no place to go to kind of learn more. How does a person start step one? He knows he's trying to decide, does he go to a 4-year university? Does he go to the trades? Where do you find out about what is electrical? What is
that's a very good question, and actually that question being asked in Quebec and Canada in general is different than being asked in many other parts of the world. Quebec especially, and Ontario, I can't speak for all the other provinces, but they have similar programs. There is what is considered vocational training. The word vocational, sometimes people think it's become a little bit of a dirty word. However, like in truck industry, we call vocational trucks logging trucks that do work. So that in society, that word has become a bit of a dirty word, so they don't really use it. But there's trade schools. If you decide you want to be an electrician in Quebec, you can go to government-funded programs and get placements with employers too. The government also offsets your wages because you're a liability at first instead of.
It's amazing.
They offset the wages for companies to hire you, and you start at the bottom and work your way up as your training gets more, your wages, and it's very proportional. Once you have we call it a ticket, but your license, it's a license to make money and do what you want. Then you can go a further stage if you want, and you can go back here, we call it the RBQ. You get your license, which is just to make sure that only people that are qualified are going into buildings and doing work. It's a good program. It makes sure that people are insured, they're licensed, and that the end consumer is getting a quality product and not going to, quite frankly, get ripped off. So it opens up a lot of avenues, and also there's trades that are needed around the world. You can go do some, like, for example, aviation mechanics. There's a great deal of work for people in aviation mechanics to go to where I was at one point, to the United Arab Emirates, and make a large amount of money for 3 years and come home and buy a house. So those are opportunities that just don't exist in a lot of different parts of the world. So many people these days have degrees and find themselves, quite frankly, not finding work.
Absolutely.
that they aspired to. Then they have not so much in Canada, but they have the associated debt with school. Canada is wonderful that way. School is subsidized very, very much. We are like an educated population. We live in a country that respects education and pushes people to become educated and functional members of society in that manner. But it's a path I would choose. It's a path I would choose over again. Let me re-speak. So, it's due to consideration. Unfortunately, popular media for the last 30, 40 years, television programming, media, the working guy has always kind of been, the underdog. He's got dirty clothes.
I hear you.
However, the money's very clean and very good. We make a very good living. We make as much as your dentist most years. And you can really turn it into, it's like anything in life, you can make it what you want it to be. But the opportunity to be out there, be in the fresh air sometimes, granted, sometimes you're in the cold, but we're tough. It keeps you in physical shape. I feel great. I'm 60. I'm still physical. I'm active. You just have it's a healthier lifestyle in my mind.
That makes sense.
And there's also the challenges every day. So for your mental exercise, you have new challenges, different things come up, different requirements, different job duties, different troubleshooting, and it keeps you sharp and it keeps you enthused. I personally been doing it for 40 years and wake up every day excited about work, for the most part.
More than most people can say.
Anyway.
Well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate your time. I'll let you get back to work. Again, this is Montreal, Canada. This was Mike, one of the most interesting people in the world, part of our series. I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mike.